Hello and welcome. Hi, I'm award-winning author Grace Wroldson and strategy coach for moms in custody battles. I will be talking about co-parenting with a narcissist today and the 8 common mistakes that moms make. So, welcome to this presentation. I'm the author of several books. One of them is Co-Parenting with a Narcissist, 7 Self Rules to Stay Sane. It's my survivor story. Just give you a heads up, I write and speak entirely in a pen name. Welcome to Co-Parenting with a Narcissist, 8 Common Mistakes Moms Make. I was inspired to make this video for you. I care about you, protective mothers who are battling it out for custody with a narcissist in family court or having terrible co-parenting dilemmas with a narcissist. I coach mothers privately in support calls, and I noticed they're making a lot of basic mistakes, which I made too and learned from. So, all of my books are about the lessons that I learned in their self help style. So, you could pick up any of my books and be able to start learning the lessons and implementing survivor strategies. So, welcome to this presentation. I'm glad you're here to learn. If you're going to sit and listen, you can learn so much from my story in my books. You can also learn so much from the lessons I learned and the tips that I share. So I'll just let you know I have written several books. I have 2 different types of women that I help. I'm a women's author, I'm self help author, self published author. All my books are available on Amazon. My background is in codependency, love addiction, trauma bonds, loving an alcoholic, being with a narcissist. And now I've learned to co parent with a narcissist, fight in family court, and strategize to win, as well as survive a narcissist that also has sociopathic tendencies. So my last book isn't on here, but it's co-parenting with a sociopath. I have another ebook coming out when you have to go through custody battles and co-parent with narcissists because the family courts force you to, even though oftentimes you're doing a lot of parallel parenting or just having a lot of problems. So thank you for being here and listening. You can get all of my books on Amazon. You're welcome to go to my website, which is my name, that has everything that I offer in terms of books and groups and podcasts. So, welcome to my body of work. I hope you learn a lot from me. So, my main message is I help motivated mothers win custody battles with narcissists in high conflict family court, but mostly I help women win peace for themselves, peace for their children. And the goal is to de escalate the conflict socially, interpersonally. And the conflict that needs to happen if you're standing up for your rights and all of that would be with a lawyer in family court. I share my story. My story may sound eerily similar, a lot of similarities, but every situation is different. So you have to take what you like and leave the rest, what applies and what is helpful. I mean, if your children are being physically or sexually abused, or if there's any types of abuse that needs to be dealt with, then you might have a totally different approach to your custody battle. So please know that, my information is obviously coming from my story and my experience with clients, and every client has so many complexities and differences that I can't give you specific advice. You have to just learn from everything that I teach you and see what you can apply. So that's my disclaimer. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a licensed professional, so I can't help with narcissistic abuse syndrome or recovery. I can't give you legal advice. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a paralegal, I'm not a professional. And everything varies state to state, county to county, judge to judge. Your lawyer will adopt a strategy or have a plan. If they don't, then you need a different lawyer. Often, even if your plan is to zigzag and take each hit as it comes, you need a plan. I'll talk about that later. And so my disclaimer is that you can't just take one tip, you can't just take one suggestion and run with it, think it's going to win. That can often just set you up for more problems. And so when you read my books, read them in order and learn everything that you can, because these things can be very tricky. The thing you think you're doing to help your case can actually hurt your case at different times. So that's why it's important for you to get proper legal advice and have a strategy and a plan specifically with your attorney. So that's my disclaimer. I can't be liable for anything that you take here and use in your case. You have to really have the gift of discernment. You've got to know when and how and if this applies to you, and run it by your attorney, run it by your domestic violence counselor, run it by your therapist. Make sure you are making good decisions based on your unique case. So I like to welcome women to a new way. If you want to get out of the drama, trauma, and chaos, which just leads to confusion, hurt, and more anger, and you want to make peace, not war, there's a little star there, because sometimes peace is only found on the other side of war. And family court battles can be that war. It feels like a war. It's supposed to just be showing up and petitioning for your rights, but it feels much like a war with paper bullets flying, attorneys drawing hard lines, and everybody looking for some dirt on the other person, and feels like very much like an enemy hostile situation. So sometimes you get peace by getting that black and white court order and having the judge be in charge, and on the other side of a high conflict, a very stressful trial. So, but there are strategies you can be doing that create peace in the day to day communications that isn't making your lawyer try to be a peacemaker. A lot of times narcissists don't negotiate. Sometimes you can negotiate with a narcissist using leverage. You can't usually negotiate with a sociopath. They want power and control. So there's things that you can be doing to create peace in your daily life if your lawyer has to go to war for you or bat for you. So just know that there should be a focus on peace, even if it's just person to person, creating goodwill in a way that's through communication. But sometimes you have to go to court and have to go through that trial in order to get the court order black and white. And yes, some of them do not follow the court order. Many of them don't pick and choose what they want to follow. So know that that's when you have to document and compile all the contempts. Usually the strategy is to compile a few contempts, unless your attorney thinks you need to file them right away, and pick away at the problem to establish how you're going to be treated, because we teach people how to treat us. So only your lawyer and you can devise a way to help your case. So if you're tired of the overwhelm and the attacks, if you want to stop the attacks, lessen your stress, save in legal fees, create a better environment for your child or your children, and move on and have a life, then the focus has to be on creating peace and not war. So a lot of that is your communication. So I do have a 1 hour webinar of how to change up your communication to have sanity, to have the peace that you need to thrive and that your children need to thrive. So check that out. You can find that on my website. And these are my tips. Like I said, always consult your attorney, take what you like, leave the rest for later. So mistakes are for learning, is what I say. We all make mistakes. We can learn from our mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. We're human. We're going to anyway. So don't be so hard. We can stop being so hard on ourselves if we make mistakes or when we make them. Being hard on ourselves for making mistakes just adds more pain to the problem. And don't be so hard on your children. If they make mistakes, they will. And we have to be ready with compassion and forgiveness. So focus on what's being learned is the best thing. So these common mistakes come from mistakes that I made, mistakes that my clients have made, and we are doing the best that we can at the time with the amount of information we have at the time and how much we know. So when we're starting off and all we know is that they're a narcissist, or they have highly narcissistic traits, or that they have things that sound like a personality disorder. We are not going to be experts on personality disordered people. Even the psychologists and therapists have been involved with narcissists, married them, and knew the disorder, and they thought they could control it or tame it or understand it better, but it is very disordered. You can't get order from disorder. So know that knowledge plus experience equals wisdom. A lot of us walk away with wisdom, and that is one of our biggest wins, is we are wiser, more aware of who's out there, what they're like, and what they do, and how to protect ourselves. So I have a list of 8 common mistakes. There's probably 100 mistakes that I have made that are totally common, but I just picked 8 because I wanted women to start learning right away from me and all of the things that I teach, so that they don't suffer in their custody case, and their children don't suffer and they don't lose their children in custody cases. So the first one is enabling the narcissist. We do this in so many ways, and we don't even know we're enabling. Or maybe you do and you think it's not a big deal. How we enable them, there's so many ways we enable them. And if you're not enabling them and you think you're not, the girlfriend or the mother or somebody is enabling them. So look for the ways that you're enabling. So if they are breaking the court order, or they're breaking the law, or not following the rules, and you're not doing anything about it, that can be a form of enabling that just keeps the problem going. Enabling them to be in charge is also enabling, but sometimes you got to balance that out with appeasing, because they have paranoid or control issues. So sometimes you have to go along. But my rule of thumb for myself was, if it enables him, but my child desperately needs it, and if not doing it would harm her, I do it. I had to find that line. Everybody wanted me to stop enabling and let it all go to heck when he got extra time. But if I were to have stopped every ounce of enabling, she would have not been at her activities. Her hair would have been in knots. She would have gone without things that would have really added to how hard her life was with him in it. And if you're co-parenting with a narcissist, you know how hard life is with a disordered person in it. And we all tend to tiptoe around the sickest person in the room. So children have to tiptoe around a narcissist and a sociopath. Most children are silenced by sociopaths and, ignored or neglected by narcissists. So, yes, there is a time for you to profile who and what you're dealing with. But if you're enabling the narcissist in any way that you can back out of, so that you're not prolonging your problems. So like when it comes to family court, women not using motions and filing in family court just drags out the problem, enables them to drag the kids through the muds. The kids don't get therapy, the kids don't get things, because we're enabling them to not be doing what they should be doing as a parent, or following court orders. So look at the ways you may be enabling that you can do something about, because stopping enabling was really helpful. So it's also helpful to showcase that they don't do certain things. They can't do certain things. When we stop enabling, they do look bad. But then I always had to balance out with, okay, I'm not going to drop my child too, even though I'm dropping enabling for the narcissist. So you'll have to figure out where that line and what things you do and don't do. But I see this mistake all the time, enabling the narcissist to keep getting away with things, and then the thing goes on for years and years, and we build resentment when we let things go on for years and years. I'll say number 2 is believing the lies and relying on the narcissist. We make this mistake, especially if you try to make a deal with the devil, as they say. If you come up with an agreement that you both sign based on his word, How good is his word? Not good at all. So making an agreement with someone who won't follow an agreement and lies and twists the truth and isn't reliable and self-centered and selfish and self-serving isn't in our best interest, and it's kind of it's not smart. I won't say that we're stupid. We do hope, and we hope that appeasing and making agreements outside of court or not going to court will save us all the stress and save the goodwill. But that's just another form of believing the lies. And then I see mothers, and I have too, relied on the narcissist so to do pickups on time so we could get to work. We have to eliminate these mistakes. We have to have backup plans, plan B, and not schedule things immediately if we know they're always late. So please use common sense logic. If someone's lied to you over and over, cheated on you, and you want to start believing them now that you're an ex, that's not common sense. If they've lied, and they always lie, even though you're the mother of the children, and they don't have the respect to give you, don't keep. See, this comes into creating a premeditated resentment when you have expectations and you expect him to pick up and you expect his word to be good. Then you're creating your own resentments. These people lie, you can't rely on them, and that's the bottom line. So put that into your consciousness and keep conscious of it every day, that you can't rely, even if they're on a good track for a little while. You want to hope it keeps going, but that is just false hope. They will fall off if it was just for image management. They will go back to their ways, and you know what they are if you are the ex of a narcissist. Number 3, I would say, is losing sight of what matters. So because they're so busy attacking us on all kinds of things, or they're got new supply and they're parading it in front of you, you lose sight about what really matters, which is your child having a happy, healthy, thriving childhood, and you spending quality time with them and advocating for their needs and meeting their needs. Everything else, all that other drama, is not going to help you or your children. It's going to suck you into a black hole of jealousy, bitterness, pain. Stay focused on what matters. This is your child. If your child is healthy, happy, thriving, mind, body, spirit, and soul, that's what matters. Not who wins in life, who bought what vehicle, who's with who. Just focus on creating peace for yourself and thriving and seeing your child and supporting your child. Don't get hung up on the fact that they're not seeing the child, they're not supporting the child, they're inconsistent, they're not following an order that really doesn't affect you. You have to stay focused on what matters. So many women on the private Facebook group talk about how he doesn't show up as a father. Why would you want a toxic father to have more contact than they already do? You have to go back to remembering how toxic they are, and then you put a vulnerable child who's being poisoned in their mind or emotionally and subtly abused with their selfishness, and that is not healthy for them. So I really want to caution you from complaining. So if you find yourself constantly and chronically complaining about the narcissist, you're losing sight of what matters. What matters is that you are the healthy parent in the child's life, and the child is spending most all of their time with the healthy parent, engaged in extracurricular activities, building, going to school, getting an education, getting medical care, getting early intervention. This is what matters, not if the narcissist is being a wonderful parent. How can you expect a toxic, disordered person? Narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder is a disorder to be a great parent. So don't get hung up and sad and repeatedly sad over the fact that he doesn't make a good father for sons, for daughters. Let it go. Go back to what matters is that, it does only take one person to create a high conflict family court battle. We know that. But we also know that it only takes one healthy parent to create healthy children. So be that healthy parent and focus on your health so that you can stay sane and healthy for your children and create peace for yourself. Number 4, I would say, is engaging in the drama, trauma, and chaos. Not, you got to stay out, step away, stay out of that relationship. If you're going back and forth with your ex, you're making mistakes. It should be, if you go watch my 1-hour webinar, the 3 things that you can say, should say to keep and create peace. Stay out of the back and forth. And if you're sending messages, look what he said, you're trauma bonded. And so go find a trauma bond recovery program. I have a video. There's experts out there on healing the trauma bond. It shouldn't be important on what he is doing that is so absurd, ridiculous, ludicrous. The audacity he has, just, that's not what you're there for. You're there for seeing yourself in through healing codependency, breaking love addiction, breaking trauma bonds, getting your child through childhood, minimal contact with the narcissist, so they're not subtly abused by their selfishness and neglect. If you're engaging in the back and forth and upset about every little thing that he does, you're not staying out of it. You're not stepping away. So just decline all that. Don't get into it, because you're losing energy on that and you're part of the problem. So when a judge sees a back and forth with tons of paragraphs, that's when the judge can't decide who the high conflict party is. If you're writing back, thanks for letting me know, okay, or I deny all your accusations, without defending yourself. So, a narcissist typically wins, I always say this in my books, by destabilizing the target. If you engage in the drama, trauma, chaos, you are being destabilized. So stay out, step away, create the boundaries for yourself. Your key to getting through this is your sanity. If you lose your sanity on all of that, because all of that crazy making behavior makes us crazy, then you lose. You've got to hold on to your sanity and create the self rules you need. So that's in my first book. Number 5, I'd say, is oversharing, giving intel and info. That's where we make the mistake. We say we're getting a new lawyer. We say I'm taking you to court. We say things that get them more paranoid and fearful than they already are. And that just creates more of a battle, more of a war. So don't be giving intel. Don't be giving long explanations or long defenses. Go document the amount of false allegations in a Google Doc, label them, date, time, your evidence that counters it. If your lawyer should need to counter or defend you on any of them, you have the hundreds of false allegations that fly your way, or a GAL or a parenting coordinator that you can just give them with the evidence that it's not true. And so you are well documented and you have a solid case. But if you're giving all of your cards and your evidence that you're not guilty and to the narcissist, they just find a new one to hit you with. And so that's why my list of co-parenting abuse, which is all post-separation abuse, is so long, because I kept standing up and disclaiming and showing that it's not true. And so I need to find a new thing to lie about, a new place to attack. And then I'd have to go to him and say, this ain't true and this is why. But if I just let him stay on that first one, he would have just repeated it over and over. Even he's repeating it and making himself believe it, but I could document how many times I could have been documenting that on a Google Doc, how many times he's accusing me of criminal activity that isn't true. So don't overshare, overgive. And if you're listening to my 1-hour webinar on what to say, you won't be, giving out stuff that's going to hurt you. Sometimes we say things that end up hurting us in our custody case. So don't say them. The rule of thumb is, if a judge reads this, or one of my rules of thumbs is, can he twist this and interpret this as I'm a weak parent, or I can't parent, or I'm an incompetent parent, or like he likes to say, I'm an unfit parent? Could anything I'm sharing, so I don't even tell him if I have a cold. I just say, can you do this or that? Like, if you say anything, they will look for a weakness in what you say to use against you. So don't give the person bullets to shoot you with. Stop talking to them. So and so has a dentist appointment. So and so has a school thing. So and so is this. That's it. It's not I this, I that. I need. If you're looking for empathy in the narcissist, compassion, empathy, you didn't learn that they were a narcissist, because they lack that fundamentally. They don't have it to give. So, like, you don't go to the hardware store for bread. That's a popular saying. If you're going into the hardware store for bread, then you haven't learned that they're a narcissist, and there's a problem there. Maybe you have a learning disorder. Clear that up with yourself. That's, a common mistake is to not learn our lesson. So if you're making a mistake and you're not learning, then really have to sit down with yourself. Maybe it's time to get a therapist, a DV counselor, or somebody that's confidential to talk to. And always know that you don't tell them you're going to therapy, that you're this, that. You don't give them personal information about you. They will spin everything to make you look bad. If they can, and if they need to, they will. And even if you think they won't, if it means they're going to win, they'll let their lawyer do it, so they don't feel like they did it to you. So be careful of the oversharing, giving intel, giving info. Number 6 was, a big mistake is not requesting our rights. Like, so many mothers complain, but you didn't ask the judge. You didn't assert your rights. You didn't ask. So if you're not asking, that's a big mistake. Write down the 20 things you want in a written agreement, airtight, black and white. If you're not requesting your rights and your child's rights, then you're making a mistake there, because you're then expecting them from the narcissist, or hoping he'll be civil or in a good mood. But if you're complaining that things aren't good in your parenting schedule, or the times, if it's holidays, vacations, and you haven't asked the judge to set it in stone of a date that vacations have to be set, or holidays alternate, and the time of the holidays, if you don't have all those specifics in there, you can request to get them in there. You don't have to go crazy because they're inconsistent and it's last minute. You don't have to do that. You can request our family wizard. If you're sick of the text messages and the calls and the word salad and the stonewalling and all the other tactics, request to have our family wizard implemented, and so that you have a parenting app that has to be used. And if they don't use it, then you are enabling the narcissist. You can file contempts. That'd be asserting your right. You can, with your attorney, you can figure out what the judge typically rules and ask for that. So, and ask for a little bit more. See if you can get a little bit more. Don't just ask for the bare minimum. A common mistake is for you're asking the narcissist for things. Why not ask the judge to make things for you? You want to get order from all of the disorder, and the narcissist can't give you that. So it might be the courts and the judge give you a regular schedule outlining the dates and times. So if you're not requesting what you want and what you need, and they're always filing and always requesting, then you're making a mistake there. And it might just be a mistaken thought that you're not worthy, that you don't have rights. You do. All parents have rights. You can assert your rights. You have the constitutional rights to petition the courts if you're in the US. So I'm in US based, and we have rights. If you're not in the US, you have to find out what your rights are in your country. And I get it. Some women have no rights to their children. I have talked to those unfortunate mothers, and they have to play a game. They have to play the narcissist or the sociopath's game to have the children and have their freedom too. So I get it that there's different situations. That's why you have to take what works and just understand that there's different places have different rules and laws. Number 7 is not having a plan. Big mistake. Falling into overwhelm without a plan. So many mothers are like overwhelmed. If you're going into a divorce, if you're going into a custody battle and you don't have a plan, you don't have a list of leverage, you don't have what you're asking for, you don't have a plan of what motions you're filing, then you are going to feel overwhelmed, lost, confused. You have to have a plan, even if it's a plan to wait. You're waiting 3 months, you're waiting 6 months. You're going to file first, you're going to let him file first. What is your plan? Write it down and write down your strategies. Like, have 3 strategies. When I work with moms, we have 3 strategies running at the same time with logistics, so that in the end, these three threads of strategies woven together makes a nice tight rope for them in their custody case. If you don't have a documentation system, if you don't know what's important to be documenting and organizing, then you don't have a plan to expose the narcissist to the judge in family court, because you want to expose, you don't want to call them a narcissist, you want to expose the behavior, how it's just not going to work for co-parenting, or if he's asking for more time that you're documenting all the time he's not doing. You need a plan, and you won't be overwhelmed when you have a plan and you're organized. It can be still stressful, court will still be stressful, but you won't be falling into despair and just dread and depression. And if you need a plan, work with one of us experts, get some of those plans in place, and get emotional support. It is an emotional thing, very emotional, very hard to go through the breakup, have all of these dashed dreams and hopes, and then watch your children suffer from their absence or their antics or their abuse. So have a plan. What's your plan for documenting abuse, exposing abuse? What is your short-term plan, long-term plan, backup plan? Have those plans, and you'll have more control. You'll feel less stressed, and you can just rely on the principles you set in place. If you read my books, you'll have established some rules about what you say, what you don't say. You'll have been establishing mindsets that you need to adopt to get through this, and I hope that you develop and have a plan. So these are 7 or 8 mistakes that I have made, as I can tell you, that other mothers that I'm working with have made, and I just don't want you to make them if you know ahead of time that this is what could be hurting your custody case in the long run. So clean up any mistakes that you have recognized. Get out the pad and pen, get out the journal, and write down what you're going to stop doing or what you're going to start doing. And if you want to pause the video, go ahead. What you're going to stop doing, make that list. What you're going to start doing, make that list. And be very mindful and keep conscious of this. Number 8 is losing energy on the small battles and not being able to spot an attack. So if you are losing energy and you're tired, then you have invested so much in the small battles that you need to be like an expert in letting go. This doesn't matter, that doesn't matter. This isn't that important. This other thing is more important. If you don't know the name of the attacks, if you don't know what gaslighting is, you don't know what love bombing, hoovering, breadcrumbing, the typical narcissist tactics, you need to know, because they have stall tactics, they have other sabotage tactics, they can do parental alienation, they can do all kinds of word salad, circular conversations. It's important to educate yourself. Knowledge is power. If you know the name of it, this is minions, this is flying monkeys, this is creating negative advocates. and have some counter strategies like telescoping and documentation, or if they're poisoning the well, and you can go ahead of them to alert the person and immunize them from the virus of the narcissist, poisonous things that they say about you. There's ways. Work with one of us experts, because there's ways to be a couple steps ahead if you know their typical patterns. So all of these narcissists, sociopaths, tend to do the same types of things, and know what they are, find that wheel of abuse and power and control. There's, just because you left the abuser doesn't mean the abuse stops. There's post separation abuse, or domestic violence, or domestic abuse by proxy, using other people to abuse you. There's all kinds of ways that they can still target you and abuse you, and that's what I call co-parenting abuse. Find my long list, circle what's being done, create those strategies to counter it, or have a plan of letting go and documenting it so that you can expose it later. Have that so that you're not losing energy going up against every little thing that's flying at you. Put up a shield, have a boundary, step away, step back, create buffers and firewalls. I teach all of that to my clients, and sometimes it's a case by case basis, because whatever's coming at you at that time is what you need help with the most. Be able to spot an attack. If you know it's an attack, you know it's harassment, make sure you answer that question once, and then not be constantly answering that question. The rest is harassment. If you answered it once, you can simply say, I answered it on such and such and date. Please see that message. Done this. I've lost energy on small battles on Family Wizard and text and by phone. Not worth it. I ought to have just been documenting it, and now that's what I do, and that's how I win, is through documentation and showcasing the pattern of behavior. I document what I'm doing right and what he's doing wrong, and that's exactly what you need in an evidentiary hearing in a family court situation, at least in my county and my state. So these are the common mistakes: enabling the narcissist, believing the lies, relying on the narcissist, losing sight of what matters, engaging in trauma, drama, chaos, oversharing, not requesting your rights, not having a plan, and losing energy on the small battles. Fix some of these mistakes. If you've got that pen and paper, write down what it is you know you're doing. Like, self-awareness is key. Once you're aware of what you're doing, you have the power to change it. First, you got to be conscious of it. So, hope this was helpful. And, what do you have control over? You have control over how you respond and what you do. So, create peace. Make sure, if you watch my webinar, your conversations are respectful, mature, adult, friendly, civil, and kind, even if they're not. What you're saying should be, what if a judge reads this? And eliminate it. Eliminate the drama. Stick only to the child. So that's my second book, How to Fight a Narcissist in Family Court and Win, Super Smart Strategies for Success. And that's available on Amazon. I suggest you read the yellow book first, so you get the mindsets and the rules that you have to establish with yourself before you go into those strategies. Remember, your goal is to stop the anger, stop being the target of blame, stop the hostility, stop the arguments, stop the opposition, create peace, get the Family Wizard or Talking Parents evidence compiled. Don't rely on text messages and phone. Ask the judge, request your rights to have a parenting app. You don't want to stand up to a bully unless you have backup, and you got to know when, how, where, and with whom to stand up to a bully. And that's what a narcissist is. It's a scared bully. And you don't need to see them as a scary, awful thing unless you're dealing with a malignant or sociopath or psychopath, that you really got to profile what you're dealing with and keep yourself safe. Safety is the number one goal. Your personal goals. Remember, your whys is to have peace and thrive, enjoy free time, less legal bills, less stress, less stressful court, less stressful communication. Stick with your goals and know what they are. Know your why is to get your child through 10 more years of a childhood without them being caught in the crossfire of the conflict. You want to spend your energy not on those battles of who did what and who cheated on who. You want to be on strategy and logistics, how to keep your kids safe, afford a longer battle. These tend to go back in family court often. How to save money, where to get the right support, what to document, to fight or not to fight. Each case is different. If you need support, join us over on Facebook, Co-Parenting with a Narcissist Support Group for Moms. We have a monthly Zoom support group. And watch out for bad advice. If you're posting your story, help, he's doing this, and you're getting many different mothers who might have a sociopath, who might just have somebody who's got a little bit of narcissistic traits, you're going to get advice that isn't from your lawyer, that isn't from a coach, it isn't from a counselor or therapist that knows you and knows how complex your case is. So get tailored support from exactly who knows more about your situation and who's qualified. But we are there for emotional support. If you got to show up for court, if you're being late to work because they didn't pick up the kids, like, we're there for support. We know, we've been there. And you can follow me on Instagram. Don't try to do this alone. Get the help you need. There's my first book, Co-Parenting with a Narcissist, 7 Self-Rules to Stay Sane. I hope you read that. See what I went through, see what I survived. I moved from victim to survivor to thriver in the span of 2 years. If you need help from me, I give you my tips, tools, strategy, survivor wisdom in my strategy calls, and I'm happy to help. What do we do in sessions? Well, I'm going to save you thousands in legal fees because I'm going to be telling you what you need to do to win your case, so that you're not constantly going to your attorney on he did this, or what should I do. You're not going to use your attorney as a therapist, because I will be having you set up a support team that doesn't cost $350 an hour. You will be creating a plan to win, which is with that documentation, knowing what to document, creating counter strategies for all the attacks, knowing what the attacks are, fix any of those mistakes, and eliminate the weaknesses. So you have to show strength in these situations. And that's super important, to not be run over completely or steamrolled. And I had to eliminate the weaknesses in my case, and that made all the difference for me. So I do have, if you join my Co-Parenting with a Narcissist support group for moms on Facebook, you can go and get my free 7 tips instant download PDF. I think it's on my website too. Read the 7 tips of the mindset that you need to shift into in order to endure this. If you can't eliminate the narcissist from your child's life, if they're not abusive enough to warrant supervised visits or no visits, child protective services, you're going to have to learn to coexist with this person and protect your children mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and buffer, put boundaries up, create firewalls. And there's so many different things that you can do to be helping. So start with that free 7 tips PDF. Here's the co-parenting abuse. If you click on my website, you can sign up to my free monthly newsletter. This is just some of them. My whole list is on a blog. You can go to my website, read the blog, but I have a bigger PDF. You print it out, you get all of them. So if you're getting a lot of false promises, if they're altering the past and it's really pushing up against your ego, just be documenting those things. My books are available. First one is the yellow, Co-Parenting with a Narcissist, 7 Self-Rules to Stay Sane. Second one's How to Fight a Narcissist in Family Court and Win. And the third one in this series would be Co-Parenting with a Sociopath, Survival and Sanity Guide. Check out my books on Amazon. You can come over to my website, find all my books, my groups, my YouTube channel, and online courses coming up. My ebook will be out soon. I am on Clubhouse. If you want to join my group, Co-Parenting with a Narcissist, and listen to some replays, you're welcome to listen. I'm here to help, hoping to give my survivor wisdom and make your life and your children's life better. You don't have a lawyer, you need to get a new lawyer, whatever the case, my Get the Right Lawyer Guide has 3 free worksheets with 20 questions. Each of those questions are super important when you're consulting with a lawyer or doing an interview of a lawyer. Don't just go in that session without a plan. Print off the worksheets and be asking those questions systematically, all 20, to get the information from these consultations. You can get so much info from these conversations. You can get the strategy that a particular lawyer would take in your case and see what fits and what works for you. But those questions are so important. You got to know what they are. So get my PDF, download it, print out those worksheets, really understand what you're doing when you're interviewing an attorney in your case. So thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment or a testimonial to this video. And my pro tip is to be businesslike. Even if the narcissist doesn't deserve civility, you deserve peace. So thank you so much for watching. And you're welcome to find me on Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, all the social media outlets, and Facebook. I hope to hear from you. And that's all for today, and I'll see you on the group.